in?
I was in the United States Army.
Interesting.
Thank you for your service.
No problem.
So, where and when did you serve?
I did 2 tours in Afghanistan. The first one was 2010, 2011, and then I went back in 2012, 2013.
Oh, wow. So, all I know about Afghanistan is what I see on the news. It looks like this was war-torn, hopeless place.
I just picture sand.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So, what was it like actually being there?
It was definitely a culture shock. It's a different world over there. It's not the greatest smell either, but it really is. It's a big desert, and there's a lot of mountains. A lot of people probably don't think about mountains over there, but it was pretty crazy over there. Definitely a culture shock.
Okay.
What did you specifically do during your?
My job was combat engineer, which I looked for bombs and disabled them, I guess you would say.
Okay.
Do you have PTSD now?
I do. I was diagnosed in 2013.
What were the symptoms?
I was easily startled, like loud noises. I was irritable, I guess, like little things kind of set me off. Big crowds aren't fun anymore. Things
Was
like
that hard to deal with at first?
Yeah, I mean, when I was still in the Army, I didn't really notice it, but it was like, as soon as I got kind of back into the real world, I started noticing little things like that.
Did you seek treatment, or were you?
I did seek treatment.
Did you know it was PTSD?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know how you are in life before you join, and then when a bunch of things are changed about you when you get out, obviously it's for a reason.
So, does the Army do like a screening for PTSD, like when you are done with your tours, or how does that work?
The Army, they'll do a test before you go over. You do it's almost like a brain test. Like they'll like
Kind of see where you are.
they like put you on a computer and make you do a bunch of things, and then they do that same exact test when you get back and kind of see what the difference is and
Okay.
see if there's noticeable changes.
I did not know that.
Are you still in treatment now?
I am. Yep. Right now it's just like a once a month thing, but before, like as soon as I got diagnosed, I was in like group classes and just more things for like PTSD awareness and like I guess how to deal with it and stay calm.
Doesn't it just blow your mind that there's 22 veteran deaths? There's veteran suicides a day.
It's a crazy number, and I know they're doing a lot to try and fix it and raise awareness.
Yeah, that's good. I just feel like, you guys are fighting over there for our country. That's the least we can do is to take care of it when we
Yeah.
come back home.
Absolutely.
So you're satisfied with your treatment so far, right?
Yeah, very, very.
Do you ever feel like PTSD will consume you?
I feel like it will always be a part of my life, obviously, because just the things that will set me off, but it will consume me just into the fact that I know what to avoid, and I can't do little things that I used to. So in that aspect, yeah.
Can you explore on what those little things are that set you off, if you don't mind?
Like loud noises, like I said before, like fireworks. I'm not a big fan of the 4th of July anymore. Big crowds. It's just things that if I'm not in complete control of that situation.
Like driving.
Like driving, yeah. I mean, if I see little things on the side of the road, still it kind of freaks me out a little bit. But yeah, if I'm not like in complete control of the situation, it kind of gets me going a little bit.
I think
No. Does it affect your loved one's life at all?
It does to the point where they have to be kind of aware of my
triggers.
triggers, I guess, yeah. So in that aspect, yeah. And then like I said before, I'm a little irritable sometimes, so I know I get mad kind of easy. But yeah, I guess it would.
Do you think that was difficult for them to first adapt to?
I have another brother that's in the military, and he served as well. So I think they kind of had an idea, but I know that it still wasn't easy for them to see me do it and for them to deal with it.
I don't think you're that hard to live with.
Thank you.
Is she hard to live with?
Yeah. I think I gave her PTSD.
If you could change anything, what would you change about PTSD awareness?
I think that it would be beneficial for them to kind of involve families and spouses of veterans, even if it's like while they're gone, you know, kind of give classes to them,
On
like
what
what
to
to expect
expect.
when someone comes back. I think that would be
I
helpful.
feel like Chris Kyle's wife could have benefited from that.
Yeah.
Because she would come home and just nag him.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not the
Yeah, and that-
same,
and
you're
then-
not the same.
That's another thing, is that it kind of makes the veterans feel like they should be there. Because when I got out, my unit deployed again a little after, and I had a lot of friends, so I can understand where he would be like, you know, I feel like I should be there with them. So
Really messes with your mind.
yeah.
Any other questions? I mean, just looking back, would you still have joined the Army?
Yes.
Knowing the consequences?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel even with the PTSD, I still got to do so much stuff. I traveled all over the world, which, I mean, who knows if I'll ever get a chance to do that again. And just seeing even the culture shock, even though Afghanistan sucked, at least I got to be there and
Experience.
see how good we got it.
Did you guys have like dogs to sniff out bombs or anything?
There was dogs, but it was other countries. I was deployed with like Germany and a couple other countries, and they had the bomb dogs, are what they called. So we didn't have any with us, but we have a lot of equipment that helped us.
Don't you have a therapy dog?
I do have a therapy dog. I've had him for 4 years now, and he's awesome.
What's his name?
Juice.
Juice.
Well, I guess we'll let you get going back to Juice.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's us from your class. Today we're going to talk about PTSD awareness. So, who's going to start it off?
Oh, okay. So our first case study is this veteran comes home from overseas, and he was in treatment for PTSD for a while, and then the VA told him that he was perfectly fine, he didn't need it anymore, so he was refused treatment. He asked for more treatment because he was not satisfied with the treatment that he had.
He was refused treatment.
He was refused the second time. He wanted to continue it. He ended up killing the psychologist because he didn't get the treatment that he deserved.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want cameras on me. I don't want to be in it anymore. Sorry. I feel so silly being like, and that's his autonomy. Ugh. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. We can restart this one, the X out of it. Oh, I don't even care.
Just cut it out.
Well, this obviously was violating justice because he wasn't being treated fairly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think basically the risks were exactly what happened, and he ended up, killing people because he wasn't given the treatment that he needed, and he was asking for help. So
Yeah, and respect for persons. They should have respected his rights.
But he had, I don't know how to say that.
Non-maleficence?
Yeah, he was not going by that. He was not going by non-maleficence. Someone needs to say that because I can't say it like
Non-maleficence.
that.
I feel like they almost violated veracity because I feel like the VA knew that he wasn't ready to stop treatment, but they stopped it anyways, and it wasn't. I guess it's violating rationality too because it wasn't rational that they did.
Did they say how he killed the psychologist?
No.
They just said they killed him.
Yeah, it just says that he killed him.
Scary.
That
Okay.
shows PTSD denial.
Yeah. I wonder when did PTSD come about?
Oh, I got that. I think. In 1980.
Really? Because I found 1678.
What?
Yeah.
I think it's probably kind of changed. Like, you know, like the definition of it's
Yeah.
probably kind of
Well,
changed over the years.
I think it came about way back, like you were seeing it way back then,
Okay.
but I don't think it was actually in the
It
media
was
and like
identified
accepted.
as nostalgia.
And I'm sure we don't even use that word anymore.
Right.
So.
Naturally.
I
I bet
know
it
how
was
to say it.
PTSD in 19.
It says in
78.
1980, PTSD was recognized as a disorder with specific symptoms that could be diagnosed and was
Yes.
added to the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So that's when it became legit.
I do not have that book at home.
There was this
Who does?
timeline that supported that Grey's Anatomy introduced a character with combat released from PTSD in 2008, and I think that was a huge thing in media
Yeah.
because
The ginger.
yeah.
Yeah.
Owen.
Bringing awareness
Owen. Is that
to
his name?
what it actually
Yeah.
is, probably.
I think-
Especially so that's such a big show.
When you don't even see it in the media, really, like you hardly ever.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
not there.
Yeah.
There's-
Well, again, too, like with the American Sniper came out, the movie, and they kind of highlighted Chris Kyle, who was a Navy SEAL, and he, I think the movie shined a lot of light on the Iraqi war, snipers, and then like PTSD. So he had to do a lot of things over there, and when he came back home, he had problems with kind of adjusting to life back at home. So
Yeah, I think in one of the books or something that somebody said, he didn't even feel at home in America. He felt at home being over there with his buddies fighting.
yeah, he even went so far as he wanted to re-enlist, and his wife wouldn't let him. So he tried to do things that would help him feel a part of, you know, like his fellow, you know, veterans. Like they would do like hunting trips and that kind of thing, but it just wasn't the same. So and then it's sad because he was actually trying to help a fellow veteran who had PTSD. They thought maybe like taking him to a gun range, him and a friend would be like therapeutic for him, but instead the guy, he was on a ton of meds and he was unstable, and he ended up murdering him and his friend. So it's crazy that he was suffering from that and trying to help someone, and then end up getting killed in the process.
Terrible.
Happened at the gun range?
Yeah, didn't he shoot him in the back? I
Yeah.
think like just awful.
I know,
Scary.
I know, that's crazy. But I mean, he himself, Chris Kyle, he had to do a bunch of things. Like he was saying, like in his first 2 weeks in his tour, he was protecting this building, and he saw a lady walk up with her child, and she had a grenade, and she was getting ready to throw it. So he ended up having to shoot this woman, you know, who was with her child, because it was his job to protect, you know, this building and these
The American
soldiers.
No
I know.
matter who you are, if you're gonna see someone die, if you have to kill someone, I feel like it's gonna take a huge toll on your mental.
Exactly. Yes,
And it's just,
definitely.
Yeah.
I think America's in denial on how much of a toll that is.
I know.
Yes. Yes. They are. They are. There was actually a lady on a plane, sidestepping, that she wasn't even allowed to fly with her service dog, so she sued. So the airlines weren't even being cooperative with people that were having severe PTSD. And I believe she won. But it's like, why wouldn't you let them be on the plane? Why don't we take PTSD more seriously?
I think people don't see the other side of it. You know, it's quick to label someone as having this mental disorder, but people don't feel like to realize like what it's like to actually be that person and dealing with it. Especially if you're already having mental issues, for someone to deny you something that's comforting or, you know, for you,
Autonomy.
yes, you are violating their autonomy.
On to another case study. there was a family in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, who is a wife and husband and son. And after this guy had came back from the war, his wife said that he wasn't the same man. He struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder and had traumatic brain injury. And she came home one day and her son was backed up against the wall because her husband was like yelling at him and just was terrified of what was gonna go on, and the little boy had his arms over his face. So she had to call his like commander in charge, which is apparently a no-no in the Marines. Like, you never call your whatever's commander. And she was saying how he wasn't okay and like things are getting worse, and their commander told her that they had been asking him to go for a facility for months, and they finally made the choice for him, and they sent him away for a 30-day stay in a mental hospital. And he was fuming at the check-in desk and was saying how he shouldn't be there, and he doesn't need to be there, and he's so better, like he needs just fine. So sometimes I don't even think the veterans realize that it's so severe and that they need to get help, and they should be taking it seriously.
Do you think there's a point that the veterans think that maybe they'll be viewed differently, or maybe they're embarrassed to come out and say that they have, because they think that they left with no condition? How could they come back with this?
A condition, right? I definitely do think that, and I'm sure they are in denial. I know we talked about it in the interview that we did, but I didn't know that there was like a process that they had to see a psychologist before and after, and then they kind of compare the two, and then they decide whether you're okay or not, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea though. I think they should all have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when they
The
come
only
back.
thing is that like how do you know, like some people, can you even believe it, you know, like
Right.
if they're afraid like something might happen, you know, if they're
They put
labeled
a
as
psych ward.
PTSD, they might just say, oh yeah, I'm good, you
Yeah.
know, like, oh no, I'm over that wasn't bad, you know, where they really need help.
They
With
should
the
have
whole-
to do a little bit of treatment when they come
Yeah,
back.
with the whole
Yeah.
idea of how they just don't want to talk about what happened over here because they think no one else will get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy had somebody die in his arms after he had just told the kid that died, his wife or his mom, that, oh, don't worry, he's in good hands, and then he died in his arms. That one would really mess with your head.
Mine?
Sure.
Okay. Alright. I found out that post-traumatic stress disorder is not only recognized with veterans, but it's also recognized with people that have been in natural disasters or big events, big bad events, I guess. Like 9/11 or children abuse, or even sudden and major emotional losses.
Oh, we're good. I'm still at 20%.
I found a case study on a child with post-traumatic stress disorder. He was a 7-year-old first grader who was very disruptive and negative in class, and so the teacher would send him home early a lot of the time, and eventually the staff noticed that he'd come in and he had marks on his arms or bruises all over his face or something. So one of the teachers brought him into the office to talk to the principal, and they asked him what was going on, and he said, you know, every time I get sent home from school, my stepdad beats me for it. And there would be times where he'd be locked in the room for the weekend with no food and not able to go to the
I
restroom
can't
at
go a
all.
whole weekend without food.
Yeah, and he had brothers
He's
and
a
sisters that
child,
were
yeah.
running around out in the hallway, and he was locked in a room because of all this. So, eventually he
He didn't have any justice then.
no, the school got a hold of Child Protective Services, and it still became worse. Like, he wasn't getting beat or anything, but he was like verbally abusing him. So the child, like, when he would be in class and someone would touch him, he would scream, or he would like panic and run and hide, or
He was traumatized.
and he'd attack people. And so they said that the 5 criteria for PTSD involved in this case was the physical abuse, physical contact, and clear physiological reactions, and continuous emotional state, and unable to experience positive emotions. And they actually diagnosed him with ADHD, and later on found out that it was post-traumatic stress disorder, and the medicine did nothing.
Mislabeling it.
Yeah. I also have another one on 9/11. I don't know if you want to do it right now or wait.
I read an article on this girl who was sexually assaulted when she was younger by her father, and she also has PTSD, but she was never aware of it until about 25 years after the fact, when she went to a psychologist and they diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is just awful because she's been living with it for so long and not even
Receiving any kind of
receiving or aware of what
what
she
even happened
has
to
going
her.
on.
That's terrible.
I think the symptoms are tricky to
Address.
to actually diagnose.
Yeah.
I have some facts on PTSD. That about 7 or 8 out of every 100 people will have PTSD at some point in their life. What's going on?
A child with post-traumatic stress disorder. He was a 7-year-old first grader who was very disruptive and negative in class, and so the teacher would send him home early a lot of the time, and eventually the staff noticed that he'd come in and he had marks on his arms or bruises all over his face or something. So one of the teachers brought him into the office to talk to the principal, and they asked him what was going on, and he said, you know, every time I get sent home from school, my stepdad beats me for it. And there would be times where he'd be locked in the room for the weekend with no food and not able to go to the
I
restroom
can't
at
go a
all.
whole weekend without food.
Yeah, and he had brothers
He's
and
a
sisters that were
child,
running
yeah.
around out in the hallway, and he was locked in a room because of all this. So, eventually he
He didn't have any justice then.
no, the school got a hold of Child Protective Services, and it still became worse. Like, he wasn't getting beat or anything, but he was like verbally abusing him.
Mm-hmm.
So the child, like, when he would be in class and someone would touch him, he would scream, or he would like panic and run and hide, or
He was traumatized.
and he'd attack people. And so they said that the 5 criteria for PTSD involved in this case was the physical abuse, physical contact, and clear physiological reactions, and continuous emotional state, and unable to experience positive emotions. And they actually diagnosed him with ADHD, and later on found out that it was post-traumatic stress disorder, and the medicine did nothing.
Mislabeling it.
Yeah. I also have another one on 9/11. I don't know if you want to do it right now or wait.
I read an article on this girl who was sexually assaulted when she was younger by her father, and she also has PTSD, but she was never aware of it until about 25 years after the fact, when she went to a psychologist and they diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is just awful because she's been living with it for so long and not even
Receiving any kind of
receiving or aware of what she
even happened
has
to
going
her.
on.
That's terrible.
I think the symptoms are tricky to
Address.
to actually diagnose.
Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a disorder that has 5 different components. Number 1 being exposure to threatened or actual death, injury, or sexual violence in one or multiple ways. Number 2 being one or more intrusion symptoms exist, dissociative reactions, reoccurring intrusive memories, reoccurrent distressing dreams, intense or prolonged psychological distress, and marked physiological reactions. Number 3 being persistent avoidance with stimuli associated with the event. And number 4 being negative alterations in cognitions and mood. Last being irritable behavior and angry outbursts, difficulties concentrating, and sleep disturbances.
I feel like that's the one that gives it away the most.
Which one?
The last one, like
Yeah.
irritable,
Yeah.
irritable sleep disorder. I think that's the symptom
Angry
most
birds,
common.
Restless sleeping.
I
Angry
see
birds.
why it's
It
so
says angry
hard to-
outburst.
Oh.
I thought she said angry birds too. I'm like, what?
I see it why it's so
Worse.
difficult to kind of,
That's-
declare someone is because that's a lot
That's
for the
very
definition.
Yeah.
So how do you even say this diagnose? To
Because, like,
diagnose with
I think it has to have at least 2 of them for them to diagnose with
And
post-traumatic
then like
stress
the
disorder.
severity of how much you have. Gotcha.
Yeah. Your facts.
Did you? Well, it's kind of like random, but
PTSD
Oh, I do have
used to be called
Nostalgia.
nostalgia, irritable heart, shell shock, war strain, war neurosis, combat exhaustion, gross stress reaction, Vietnam combat reaction, post-Vietnam syndrome, and the latest name is from the 1980s, and it's post-traumatic stress disorder.
Like, is this in the, like Leila already stated, 1980?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I do have a few facts. About 8 million adults have PTSD during a given year, and this is only a small portion of those who have gone through a trauma. And about 10 of every 100 women develop PTSD sometime in their lives, compared with about 4 of every 100 men. So women actually get it more than men.
You know, it's funny. I read a article on some women that have gone through labor and delivery, and they had post-traumatic stress disorder after that
from the pain,
delivery.
from the
Your
delivery.
the pain of the delivery.
That's what they get. PTSD
That's
from.
what I read. 2 different articles of
Oh
women.
my goodness.
That's
discussing
insane. I didn't even know that was.
I never.
I would
I
think
wouldn't
the
even
stress
think of
would
that.
come in like when the kids are
Right.
around and moving.
Yep, I
Yeah.
read that it was from labor and delivery.
I mean, I
I
can
also-
see why the pain gets pretty intense, so I can kind of see that for
Yeah.
some people.
I also read that there are about 22 suicides of veterans
Yeah, a
a
day.
day.
Related to the post-traumatic
yeah.
stress.
A day. And I have an article about older vets committing suicide at an alarming rate, and how it used to be that it was just like more the younger guys as soon as they would come back, but now it was like these older guys from the older wars are now like over the many years later are committing suicide. Like they're over the age of 50 and they keep going up, and we're like, it says nobody knows anything about why, but it's obviously a whole bunch of things, but it's like, why all of a sudden now are they doing it even though they've been out of war for so long? It's just maybe the PTSD has built up and
Right.
they just can't take it.
Or something maybe triggered
Yeah.
the memory of it, and then that's where it
Do
happened.
you think
Right.
maybe it's because now when young men and women are coming home back to the States, their focus is on the PTSD and like treating it, and like it's become more aware of rather than when they were in war?
Probably. Yeah,
So-
because when they were in war, they came home and it was called shell shock, and
They
there weren't medications
It was
for
just
that or
brush
anything.
over.
Yeah, there was no therapist that's like, let me talk to you about your shell shock. Actually, now one of the most effective psychotherapies is called prolonged exposure, and prolonged exposure helps the veteran confront the memories of trauma and the so if you got to get pregnant again and go through labor again,
For you to get over
yeah,
the trauma.
prolonged exposure helps the veteran confront the memories of trauma and the locations and situations that make them uncomfortable. That way they relearn how to manage the fears and anxieties. So we are making progress in the research department.
After doing the interview, I never would have realized, like I would have never, I guess it makes a lot of sense. I never would have really realized that 4th of July would be so much of an issue.
Yeah.
Whereas we kind of use that as like a holiday to like celebrate.
For a lot
For-
of them, it's probably something
for
that's
those
kind of
who-
traumatizing,
Yeah.
and they don't even want to go out
Yeah.
because, or even if they're at home, people are
They're-
firing fireworks or shooting off
And I'm
whatever.
sure not
so.
only is it hard on the veterans, it's probably really hard on the family members.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think
people are
it's,
like,
I think it's cool, like how he has a dog that helps
Mhm.
him, like how they have trained animals.
We're talking
like
about
that.
Nick now, the
But-
interviewee.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were like telling me. I'm like, you know.
Telling our class.
Well, I just thought that was cool
People.
how they like taught dogs to help veterans or people that have, you know, mental problems from certain things that happened in their life.
It's
And
crazy
yeah,
how much
that's
it helps. Actually, I didn't print the article of this Australian gentleman who was in so this just happens all over the place, but this Australian guy who was in the army, and he denied himself this. He never thought he had PTSD. He thought it was a big joke, didn't know it was real, and then he realized that he had it, and now he carries around a little white fluffy puppy, and it's like his little safety
Comfort
blanket.
thing.
Yeah, and he was like, now I tell people it's my wife's, but it's actually his. It's his little comfort dog. Yeah.
How does the dog react on 4th of July? Like, do you guys hear fireworks at all? Like, does the dog freak out too, or does it
No,
calm
he
down?
wasn't in war.
Well,
It's
I
not
mean,
the
like
dogs
some
are
dogs
better.
are scared of
I know
fireworks.
what you
Like,
mean.
yeah,
I think it's
if
complete.
It would help him, or if it would make
It's
it worse.
Yeah,
totally
like-
ridiculous that people are always like, oh, the dogs, keep your dogs inside because they're gonna be freaked out by the fireworks, but they never realize exactly what it does to our veterans.
The people, the humans, they're more concerned about the dogs.
Yes,
Right.
they are.
than
Good
the
morning, Dr.
humans.
for that.
Yeah.
They are.
No.
That's
Or is
a
it
good
just
point.
that they're not aware, or is it?
I would say that because I had no idea.
'Cause I
When I
had-
read that, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like
Yeah.
fireworks are cool.
We
They're
have
pretty.
to have equality and justice for all.
Yes. Even
Not just
Yeah.
our four-legged friends.
No, this was the first 4th of July that I don't think I even celebrated it at all. Well, I mean, like, no, we didn't. We didn't go out and do anything.
What
I didn't
about-
think we went and had drinks because we were just like, stay away from noises, stay away from people.
Were you
and
bummed or
crowds.
kind of confused? Kind of like, I don't know what to do. Like, what if you
actually,
heard one in
kinda.
the distance?
Because I was like, should we even try it? Because I was like, if you know that they're coming, like the sounds are coming, is it okay if we go? And he said no, not even then. Because on 4th of July, like the finale is just so loud
Yeah.
that it's like,
It's intense.
I mean, I feel like some people can, and then I don't know. I think Nick hasn't been out long enough to be okay with it. But that whole week leading up to it, I mean, there are people that probably
And
have
after.
it way worse than him
Right.
with PTSD, and they've been, and I mean, people are just shooting off one thing that probably sends them
Right.
all over the
And-
place.
Even not just that, I actually work with a doctor. I believe he's Lebanese, but he's from an area that was like war torn. Like he would walk past bodies in the street when he was a little boy, and someone dropped a tray at work, and it's pretty loud. And he yelled, and he's like, "I hate that! Don't drop loud, make loud noises."
Unexpected.
So I'm sure he has PTSD from stuff that happened when he was a child.
Yeah, no one can even imagine what it's like over there unless you've been over there.
Yeah.
So, we thank all the veterans and all the armed forces.
I think they should have more than one day a year that they're really recognized for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I feel like,
they do so much every single day while they're there.
yeah,
You know, it's kind of weird. 4th of July, they kind of are like thanking them. In a way.
yeah.
Like I go to this 4th of July fireworks off of the lake, and they literally are saying people's names that are either passed away or they're present there, but they're still fine. Like they can, you know, they don't have post-traumatic stress disorder probably, but
Right.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Don't put bombs off and then fireworks and
And this
Yeah.
is their thanks, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know if I should bring up the 9/11 thing.
Go for it.
Like, read an article where at least 10,000 firefighters, police officers, and civilians were exposed to the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center have been diagnosed with PTSD. A lot of them are restless and replay of the horrible events in their minds or nightmares. They have trouble concentrating and are jittery and overreact to alarms or loud noises. There was only specific people actually that were involved in it that were treated for it. They wouldn't help certain people.
isn't it
I remember.
volunteers? Because
It was just the police officers and firefighters,
So they
and then
wouldn't
the
help?
employees.
They wouldn't like give treatment to some?
nothing.
Nope, they wouldn't give treatment to the other people.
Beneficence.
Is that like the fund that
That was
we
the
talked about?
financing, yeah, the
Yeah.
federal financing.
So basically, that you had to prove that you were in these areas in order for you to get funding. So if I just said, living in Michigan, I'm gonna go help, but I didn't have proof of what I was actually doing there, then even if I suffered, even if I was like buried under shrapnel, or not shrapnel, but under debris or something for
Right.
days, I wouldn't get treatment because I couldn't prove that I was actually there.
That is crazy.
Right. I'm sure there's an ethical principle involved there.
I'm
Well, I
sure.
was just saying beneficence because you're not treating everybody equally, and you should be doing the good for all. It's
Wasn't being impartiality because you're
I-
saying, you know, this person can get it and this person can't, you know,
Right.
and there's not a good reason for it. So
Equality, respect for persons,
yeah, the list is endless.
rationality.
Which is crazy that people you can get. I mean, I guess it's like any healthcare thing. You can get denied, but
Right, it's just like, oh, because you weren't these specific people, we're not gonna help you
you
get
have to
treatment.
but
You're gonna have to seek it yourself
I
and,
saw that.
and
You
pay
did
for
say
it
the
yourself.
situations that guy did?
Oh,
Uh,
no, I didn't.
But yet you have people asking for volunteers to come there.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do? If I volunteer and go there, they're not going to cover if something happens to me. So then you see less people volunteering because
Mhm.
why would you take the risk?
Just like in
Yeah.
the military.
Which is sad because we need those volunteers
What
Right.
desperately.
Then some people probably don't even think about that. They're just going there to help out. They're not
Mhm.
thinking about the long
The
consequences.
The consequences.
Yeah.
That would just
Yeah.
replay in my head every day if I did that.
And
Yeah.
it's like when we asked Nick, like looking back, would you go back and do it again,
Mhm.
knowing
And
the
he said-
consequences? And he said, yeah.
Definitely.
So I bet a lot of people would say yes.
Yeah.
The good
Yeah.
people.
Right.
Yeah. I think he probably feels that whatever he's going through now, it was well worth, you know, the
Mhm.
stuff that he did over there and how he helped and
Yeah.
served his country.
Thank
so.
goodness he didn't have any issues with his treatment, and like he didn't get denied, and he wasn't forced to go. He was able to go, so his autonomy was just fine, and
Right.
he was treated equally, and all that was nice.
Speaking of denial, I read this article that this man wrote on why he thought his claim was denied by the VA, and he has 6 reasons. His first was that the VA did not have any proof of his injury in service. The VA says that you do not have a disability. The VA says that your illness is not related to the service.
Wow.
The VA says you did not show up to your CMP exam. And the VA does not believe your doctor.
The VA sucks right now.
And how do I know that the VA even got the evidence to prove my claim?
Wow.
How could they not believe his doctor? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like, that's crazy that they wouldn't take the word of a physician that is able to diagnose and, you know, this patient.
I
and-
think the VA was lying, and they weren't upholding their veracity.
I agree. I don't
I think they knew it. They just didn't want to, for some reason, help him out.
I truly think that they know what they're doing. I don't think it's something that they want to do. I think that they do want to help. I feel like kind of like in health insurance, you kind of can only help with so much, and you have to deny other stuff.
Yep.
You don't really look into what really needs help.
Oh man. Oh. Oh, so I found I just found some information on why PTSD research is important. Since we're trying to bring about awareness, we also need to be like, you need to be aware of PTSD, but we also need to be like looking into how to treat it and whatnot. But research is important because you need to understand the problem and its effects on health. Developing and testing treatments to ease or fix the problem. So we're always trying to find new treatments because sometimes you don't always want to just pop a pill, and finding ways to prevent the problem in the first place. Imagine if you could prevent PTSD.
Right?
How in the
Amazing.
world would you do that? I don't know, but
It would be awesome.
If our
Yeah.
minds didn't constantly think and remember things.
So if we
Perfect.
weren't humans,
If
basically.
we weren't, yeah.
If we weren't humans, then maybe we could prevent PTSD.
Just out of curiosity, does PTSD have like a awareness month?
it should.
It sure doesn't.
It's an
look it up
illness
super
just
quick?
like any other.
Pretty sure it doesn't. We would know.
I'm looking it up.
You know what I mean? Delta College does every.
I feel like we would
For
know.
October, they
Awareness.
had like a different awareness other than breast cancer.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even know, so maybe it does, but it's just interesting.
They should have one.
Yeah. And just all throughout my research, I just saw like how many steps you have to go through when you're in the military to even to just get treatment. which is just interesting. Like, I mean, they should just be able to go and talk to somebody. I feel like whenever.
It shouldn't be
Like,
that hard for them.
There's
It's
a
already
list
hard
of
on them.
things you have to do, and send this form in and wait for this, and then send this form in and wait for this, and well, like,
It gets to be just a tedious process, and people don't even want to go through it, you know. And I think a lot of people get not diagnosed because they don't want to go through all that. So
No, not even on the PTSD
National
Veteran Affairs
Center page.
website.
Well, maybe from our video we can get a month made. Maybe this will blow up on YouTube.
I'm just
And
saying.
we'll just
I
be-
sure hope not.
I got my army shirt on.
I'm not.
But
Oh man.
so I guess in conclusion, is this the end?
I mean, are we gonna end this video? So be aware of
Right.
PTSD. It's a serious thing.
yeah,
It involves not only veterans, but just everyone in general, regardless of what you went through. Whatever triggers your.
I think
No,
veterans is
memories.
a huge thing though, because how could we send people over there and bring them home?
And then not
Not
respect
take care
them.
of them.
And,
Oh yeah,
Mm.
sure.
Yes.
So hopefully this video brought some light to PTSD.
I think it was all over the place.
It might have been, but I mean, at least it started a conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully amongst you guys.
That's how
and-
everything starts.
Yeah, and hopefully to help someone that maybe you know are suffering from PTSD, and maybe they can seek treatment and get some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.